Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Ask me almost anything. My name is Glenn Gers, and oh dear, my camera has gone out. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the Chief Operating Officer, the king of Writing for Screens. I come to you live every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, if I can make it, to talk to you about what I know and what I learned in my 25-year career writing for TV and movies. I mainly give you some lessons in short videos. These live streams are lovely. Try to get everyone to answer everyone's questions and give them what they want. But the truth is, most of my best work, the lessons where I tried to boil down what I know about writing and writing for screens, is on my page here at the first three playlists. This is what they look like. They are the playlist Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills, and Craft, and the process, being a writer. That's where I tried to get everything down into little, short, practical 10-minute videos. Very simple. There's no grand theory here. There's just tools and skills and process tips that I think will help you figure out what you care about, because that's the most important thing. There is no one way to write. There is no best way to write. There's a way that works for you, and you have to figure that out. All I can do is give you a bunch of things that I've seen and learned and read about, try to show you what it is to go through the process of working, in case those tips and techniques will help you. Maybe they'll just help you to say, well, that's something I don't want to do. Cool, that's valuable. The main thing is, if you are working on some kind of writing and it's working for you, do that. That's that simple. If it's not working, if you're struggling, if you're confused, if you're lost, if you're scared, try checking out these playlists. The topic of each one is in the title. It's also the great big thumbnail, so you can't miss it. Genre, flashbacks, dramatic action. That's where the action is as far as this channel goes. However, we got a whole bunch of people saying hi. Hi, Claire. Hi, Najo. Hello, Nathan and Thumper and Doug and Arctic Flower and Donna and Jean and Marta Latosa. Wow. And Wolf Powers, the gang is all here. As Najo says, hey all. Great, this is cool. I want to talk to you a little bit today about a question that I got, which was from E2. The question was, can you compare breaking into and working in writing books versus writing for TV? This is from E2 a while back, and I said, sure. And just a little preview of coming attractions. Thursday, I just got a message talking about what do you do when you have lost your creative spark, when it's just not fun anymore or you don't feel good about doing it. That's a great question, and I'm going to try and spend Thursday, the next coming hour, on that. So if you can be here, that would be great. Hi, Mark. Good to say. I am chuffed to be back. Chuffed is definitely the spirit of the hour. Okay, let's get into this. This is very simple stuff. Well, not very simple stuff, but it's I tried to make it simple. Well, the question is the differences between breaking into and working in writing books or writing for TV. Now, one of the most important things to think about here is you're talking about being a creator in these fields, because there are plenty of day jobs in these two industries, in the publishing industry and in the television industry. However, in fact, there are, by the way, at least 1,000 more day jobs for every creator job. The proportions are extraordinary. If you want to be in those industries, you want to get into that work, if you just want to be around it, the day jobs, the crafts, the work of getting that stuff done is where you should go, frankly. The problem is none of that is being a creator. None of that is doing the writing itself. So the first thing I wanted to point out was just that when I first got out of college, the first thing I did was I said, well, I want to be a writer. I had no question about that. The question is, how do I pay the rent while I am trying to break in as a writer? And I thought, well, I love books. I love the world of books. And I lived in New York City. So I was like, I want to get a job in that industry because that industry was centered in America there. And I'll tell you, I got a job working at Simon & Schuster in the trade paperback marketing department. First job after college. And I was inside one of the great publishers of that time. And I lasted 6 months because, as they said to me, you're a fun guy and you're smart and you're wonderful, but you are not working very hard because you don't really care about this job. You care about being in publishing. You want to be published, but you're actually, if you want to be in the trade paperback marketing business, you have to actually put in more time. You have to be engaged. You have to actually, it's not just a day job. It's not like driving a car or making deliveries or sitting behind a counter and using the cash register. You have to really engage in these jobs in these industries. And therefore, I just want to point out, if you want to get a day job in these industries that you love because you love creating in them, recognize you have to want to do that work, the work in that job. Like if you are working in catering on the set of a TV show, you have to love doing catering. You have to really do as good a job at catering as you can because there are other people who really want to do that job. And there's people who are depending on you to do that job well. They don't care if you want to write the great American script. You got to get the food on the table. So that's really something to consider when you think, I want to have a day job in this industry that I love. It will, in many ways, give you insight into that industry. It's fabulous. However, it will also de-romanticize that industry because you'll recognize it's an industry. It's a business. Everyone working in it is doing their job, which is weird because their job involves an art. Even if that art is what they're supporting, it's still a job. It's still a business. So it's a tricky thing. Sometimes it's a lot better. In fact, I decided that it would be better for me to be a receptionist at any office in the world, to be an office temp, anything that let me keep my head down and not care about my job that much so that I could be a writer in my mind full time. My solution. It lasted for 10 years. Hi, Maisie. And hi, Maisie says, hi all. Good to see you. So let's talk about the differences between being a creator in writing books and writing TV. First difference, where you can live. Because if you write books, you can, at this point, write them from anywhere. The publishing industry still is centered in a couple of large cities, but the truth is, your engagement with that industry is very slight and can be done electronically. So you can live wherever you want. You can live wherever you can afford. You can live wherever your life and family and interests and feelings and everything are centered, and still be a great novelist and possibly even work with publishers elsewhere. TV, you have to live in a production city. And there are very few of them where you have the staff of TV being written. In America, it's New York, Los Angeles, a little bit maybe in San Francisco, Boston, Chicago, Atlanta. But those are mainly production hubs. Weirdly, I know that some TV shows, because they work in Vancouver, the staff actually sometimes has to be in Vancouver. Although often the staff is in Los Angeles, the production is in Vancouver, and that is a drag for everybody involved because you need to be near the production. So there's a big difference. TV, yes, you have to live in a major production city. In America, it's Los Angeles. Okay, by the way, thank everybody for the great shirt, lovely shirt. comments. Thank you. It is a lovely shirt. Okay. Michael, actually, no. Very few screenwriters work in the industry mailroom. Agents are the ones who work in the industry mailroom. Agents, producers, things like that, but especially agents, because there was a mythology back in the 80s. And in fact, you were required, if you were going to start as an agent at some of the big agencies like CAA, you were required to work in the mailroom and work on these various jobs going up through there. I don't partly I believe it was simply, hey, I did it, so you have to do it. Partly it was get a sense of like if you're in the mailroom in those days, since mail was physical, people would actually push carts full of mail around and you'd get to know everybody and you'd get to know the place. You get a sense. You certainly didn't get a sense of what everyone was doing in their office. I'll tell you that. Working in the mailroom does not give you any insight into what's in the mail or in the offices, but it does give you the layout of the place and all the people. But mainly, I think it was sort of like boot camp. It was like you have to put up with this in order to get to that. Anyway, the point is screenwriters definitely do not work in the industry mailroom. Screenwriters or TV writers, the way in that, way in kind of concept of the mailroom would be writer's room assistant. That's where the quote baby writers start out. Okay, Mr. Froopy Pants says, I keep coming up with scenes, concepts, ideas for a story, but finally putting it together. Yes, I do, and I will get to that quite soon because good question. All right, hi folks. Hi folks. Hi Umbraman. I'm reading out loud. All right, let's get back to books versus TV, breaking in, working. So the other thing is the type of work process is extraordinarily different. When you write books, you write by yourself for 6 months to a year. I guess there are some people who churn out books faster than that, but truthfully, most of the time you are sitting by yourself. You have to organize your own time. You have to figure out a way to motivate and focus and discipline yourself because you are all by yourself. The good thing about that is you can do it in your pajamas or the bathtub or whatever you want. However, you do have to be capable of getting yourself to do the work. TV is entirely collaborative. The style of collaboration is idiosyncratic. Every show will be run by a showrunner. The showrunner's personal way of working will determine whether they divide scripts up, whether they break them in the room. There are many, many steps to creating a TV script, and there are certain basics. You need to, quote, break the story, which means create the outline. You need to break the season. Usually that is done by the room together, led by the top showrunner and showrunner's second in command. But the point is, it's not done alone. You don't do any. The only time you work alone in TV is having worked in the room, in the office, done the collaborative stuff. You will be sent off for 1 to 2 weeks to write your draft of a certain script, which will have been outlined together, approved together, or passed through a process, and then they will say, go write your first draft, and they will send you off alone. Otherwise, you are writing with other people. That's a very, very different situation. Books and TV could not be more different. They are the opposite ends of the spectrum. Likewise, the pace of that work. Writing a book and publishing are extremely slow. It is not unusual to complete your book, sell it, and not see it for a year or two. Television works very fast. They work very fast and intensely, partly because they are very highly paid and under a lot of pressure, and therefore nobody wants to wait around very long, especially when you're paying someone a weekly salary, which is extremely high. So therefore it's like, let's get this done in 8 weeks, folks. Let's get this done in 14 weeks, blah, blah, boom. So pace is very, very different. My most frustrating time writing was TV. Yes, TV, you have to have the personality for it. You have to have you have to understand and work in the way it works. It took me a long time to get even semi-comfortable with it because I am very much a sit by myself and don't bother me kind of writer. The other thing about the differences of working in TV or books is books can be a side hustle. You could, in theory, be a dentist. You could work in a store. You could do whatever it is, and then write books on the side. And in theory, even continue to publish them as a side hustle. Very, very few writers of books live off the money they make from books. Very few. Most of them have another job, usually teaching other people to write books. But the main thing is very few people make a full-time living off of writing books. TV, there's almost no such thing as a side hustle or you can't be a part-time TV writer. It's a full-time, competitive, intense, highly pressurized and competitive job. Let me see. They got some big comments here. Not only don't they let you do anything nice, well, nice is a matter of opinion, but they don't let you do what you want. If and when you do happen to reach where it could be neat, the rest of the team will make sure it doesn't work. The kind of negative way of looking at it, in some cases, they will make the script better. But the main thing is you don't get to do what you want. That's a really, really important thing about writing for TV. You are not in charge of your own writing. You are an employee. Hang on, let me just see. Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth Watson. Very nice to meet you. I'm glad that you're here live too. Opinion on the new trends of studio and canceling finished films or shows. That's a juicy one. Let me get to that after I finish this topic. Okay. But yeah, good question. For an introvert to collaborate, is it possible I think you got a cut and paste thing. Is it possible for an introvert to collaborate? Yes. If the introvert A is aware they are collaborating, they are working with someone who can accept whatever. All collaborations, like all relationships, are kind of a negotiated plan. In other words, there isn't a set rule for how you do it. Whatever works between the collaborators. So it is possible to have a introverted collaborator and another introverted collaborator, and they say, hey, let's get on the phone for once a day and we'll pass stuff back and forth and we won't spend a lot of time talking to each other. Or one could be the introvert and one could be the extrovert. It depends. It is very difficult for an introvert to be in a room full of writers, which is how TV works, because unless somebody is willing to like say, hey, let's hear what the introvert says, you're just going to get lost. It's hard. Also, remember, aside from whether or not you're getting your word out there as an introvert, the whole point of being an introvert is it exhausting to be engaging with people socially or personally. That's the as far as I understand it, the definition of introvert is that you expend a lot of energy emotionally and physically engaging with people. It takes a lot out of you. Whereas some people, they need other people around to bring up their energy. So for me, being with people burns me out. And therefore, that's the problem with being an introvert, is you're going to burn out. Mark Burton says, I tried to write a TV show short and sharp like The Three Stooges. It was tough and no one wanted to know. Well, the no one wanted to know part, it is tough. It is always tough to write TV. TV is very demanding. And no one wanted to know because no one wants to know anything. Most of the time, it's hard. It is hard. In the room situation, very hard on introverts. They would need support. They would need personal or group support. Anyway, what is more enriching? Well, let's get to that. So the continuing the compare and contrast, books publishing, breaking in, working in, money. Okay, the money for books is tiny. The most published authors do not make their living, they do not pay their bills exclusively from their writing. TV, it's very big money. It is among the biggest money that you can get paid to be a creative writer. However, it is very unstable in that you are you work for very short bursts of time, and then after that you are scrambling for your next job, and it is insanely competitive. So while you may make a bunch of money in a certain 3-month period, you may then not work again for a year. So it's a tricky and very demanding life. On the other hand, it's a bunch of money if you know how to handle it and if you are capable of running on that treadmill. But the other thing about the trade-off for the money is in TV, as Angela has pointed out, you are not fully in control of your writing. You're barely in control of your writing. Other people will tell you what to write about. They will make the creative decisions all above all of yours. So that if you make a creative decision, you are offering it to the key creator to decide yes or no, or to make you rework things. You don't get to choose when you write, how you write. Your work is almost always rewritten by other people. Not everyone can handle that. That almost killed me. It takes a while, and the money sometimes pays for it. But because the work is so demanding, the idea of like, oh, I'll do this thing and then I'll make so much money, then I can go and write my novel. Did 25 years. I never quite got around to that novel because of the demands of trying to get the next job. Okay, so the money in books is bad, but the advantage to that is the costs are low. In other words, at this point, you can publish a book by yourself. You can pay for it or just ebook it. So there are more indie and small publishers. Like there aren't a lot of small TV networks. There's not like a little indie TV network working out of somebody's bedroom, in a minor city, saying, "Hey, let's just do a little TV." But there are publishers who do that, and they're legitimate publishers and they're worthwhile. Also, DIY exists in publishing. There's no such thing as DIY TV. You cannot self-create TV. You can self-publish a book. You have to be prolific and hardworking. You have to be willing to do all the work of publishing, but you can do it. And for some people, especially genre writers, you can actually sometimes make a living at that. There's no semi-pro in TV. In TV, there's no such thing as like, if you're a musician, you could be in a bar band and maybe you have to work a day job, but you could, every weekend go to a different bar and travel and maybe make enough money to pay for the gas and keep working. You could do in theater, regional off Broadway, let's do a show in a barn. There is a legitimate path in theater to do that. There are small presses in publishing. There is indie film. There is no indie TV. So I would just say that in terms of the kind of work, you have to be willing to play in the corporate, high-level competitive field if you want to be in TV, in showbiz. So the question then becomes, which is more enriching? That's a personal issue. It's a different question, because the answer is, what do you feel personally is the thing that pays you back? If the thing that pays you back is money, that's going to be a different enriching than what pays you back is a satisfaction of creating something and completing it and maybe sharing it with people. Different things that you get out of those two. And there's it's not an either or. It's a complex web, which we are all always dealing with. Other thing to remember is it's two different kinds of writing. You can't switch back and forth without practice and mastery of the skill. Two entirely different forms of creative writing. And either one takes a lot of work and practice to learn, to master, to become good at. And without being good at it, the money question or even the sharing to other people question comes moot. It's not about that until you are good. You have to give yourself that 10,000 hours, and that's no joke. That's that slogan, that meme from the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell is actually pretty accurate. It takes years and years and years of nonstop work to become really good at basically anything. The other thing, and I see all your comments, I'm going to get to them in a second, but I want to just cover these. The other big difference is in style and subject matter and structure. There's a huge difference because books are extremely flexible. The subject matter of books, the type of story you can tell, the style you can use, you can try a lot of different things in books. TV is much more narrow. It is much less accepting, even though right now is a highly experimental period, but still within that experiment, there's still less freedom creatively. And that's not to say that you're not learning some damn fine stuff when you learn how to write for TV, but it is a different conception of the art. I would suggest, first of all, the thing you write has to be the thing you consume a lot of. If you, and the problem here is if you consume a lot of TV, and therefore you say, I must write TV, you're setting yourself a very, very narrow goal. It is very, very hard to get in that. What I was saying, where you live, how you work, how hard you work. These are things that are, there's no negotiation. You must be at the absolute top of the game in those places all the time. Books allow you a lot more freedom and a lot more room to grow. It depends who you are, whether or not it's right for you to do one. I personally suggest try. Try the writing, not the work will come later. Try the writing. It takes a long time to learn how to be good at them. See what feels good to you. Explore, experiment, see. Either one, you have to be okay with an unstable, solitary life. Even a TV writer may be constantly collaborating, but their career is their own. Not everyone is doing the same thing. That is the whole point of being an artist. So therefore, you are, if you want to be an artist, you have to be comfortable living with your choices and feeling good about your choices and feeling good about the fact that the rewards may not match what you deserve, honestly. The rewards are irrational and they come and go, and the rewards are tricky. So you have to be okay with that. You have to be internally driven. That's the way it is. There's a dark side to either of these two paths. And I would just end with a little story. I think I've told this before, but a friend of mine is a very fine and well-regarded novelist. Major publishers, reviewed and really quality literary novelist. I ran into him after decades, and we was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And it was so good to see you. And he said that he envied me making such a living at my art. Like he was like, "I can't believe, like, look at what happened to us. You're making, you can. This novelist has another job." And when we're talking about somebody who's really, really a good in the game working literary novelist, he still was looking at me and saying, "Wow, you get to just pay your rent by writing." And I said to him, "I can't believe you get to write whatever you want, because I pay my rent because I'm constantly scrambling job to job to do whatever these people want me to do, and I never get to write what I care about." So in both cases, people who were externally seen as successful in their field both felt the rub of what's wrong with either art form as a job. So it's just something to think about. Okay, let's take a look at some of these. A few words on short stories, especially if they come up in one sitting first draft. Okay, well, that's I'm not sure about what the question would be. The question, like, if you write a short story and it just comes to you and you write the whole thing in the first draft, yay, yay, cool, good. I hope it keeps working that way. My feeling about anything where your work comes to you quickly, easily, and completely, great. My understanding of writing as an ongoing thing is sooner or later it doesn't. Writing comes to me very easily, but for a long time and often it didn't. So what you want is you want a process and you want a technique that you can do when it doesn't come. That's the whole point for me. And that is exactly what these 3 playlists are about. Especially the bottom one, the process being a writer, but also the school tools, skills, and craft. That's where I've tried to explain what you do when it doesn't. As far as short stories, as an art form, they're a great art form. They're beautiful. They're demanding. They are hard to break out because a short story is so consumable so quickly, and the audience then will move on to the next thing. So it's hard. The golden age of short stories as a commercial business is low. Although, Cat People in the New Yorker, this one story is quite controversial, became this enormous runaway bestseller, became a movie. It's not impossible. But I don't think you should ever look at the lotto winner as the plan. That's the fact that somebody else, the fact that George Lucas managed to make Star Wars and it was what it was, does not mean that if you make your Star Wars, it will be that. Partly because he already made it, and therefore the groundbreaking nature is broken. Okay. Yes, we definitely could use a support ostrich, those of us who are a little introverted. When you pitch your idea, does everyone give the thumbs up or thumbs down? No. First of all, they don't often tell you right away. They say, we'll get back to you. And then they tell you, your agent, because they don't want to talk to you because they don't want to tell you no. Whether or not everyone does, it depends on how many there are. Everyone never agrees on anything. Good morning. You can the outline right now. Excellent. Good. Sharing in however one way one can. Preparation skills, a long journey. Slogan. Nice. Yeah, that's the preparation and skill is a long journey, and it's going to that never changes. Let me get some of these questions that I said I'm going to get to that because I really want to actually get to them. It's like a personal matter of honor that I stop saying I'm going to get to that and then not do it. Mr. Froopy Pants said, I keep coming up with here, let me get this back up here. Mr. Froopy Pants said, I keep coming up with scenes, concepts, and ideas for a story, but find putting it all together hard. Do you have any tips on how to overcome that? Yes. I would say I have a bunch of them there in my work so far. I have got some videos that I really, really suggest you look at. The first one is use what you have. Take a look at that video. Talking about the idea that if you come up with a scene or a concept or an idea, that is the beginning of the process of building the whole story. You never come up with the whole thing at once. Nobody does. So therefore, except for those short stories that we were just talking about. But most of the time, if you come up with a scene or a character, you're going to need to figure out what to do with it. That process, I urge you to try outlining. Look at this video, Why Outline, which explains the purpose, which is exactly that. What do you do with the thing you've got? And then the how to outline. And then I hate to say it because it's kind of obvious. It's the thing I always say, but this video, 6 Essential Questions, is a way to give shape to the concept or the idea, putting it all together hard. So those are my main tip. Is honestly that this question, Mr. Froopy Pants, is the main business of this channel. I think about this all the time, and I urge you, I beg you to look at all these videos. There's not that, it's 30. It's about 30 videos total in these 3 playlists. Now and then there'll be one that doesn't apply to what you're doing, but honestly, most of them will answer Mr. Froopy Pants' question, which is, if you've got these things, but they're not the form of art that you want them to be in, you have to learn the process, the ritual of filling in the form, filling in the between what you've got and the finished work. You have to keep on going back and forth and saying, well, do I have an ending? Do I have a beginning? Do I have a thing that they are trying to do? I have obstacles? Do I have goals? And with each one of those, and then, of course, you turn it into scenes. That is the most important thing I can tell you. And this one too, organize. Hold on. I'm just scribbling down so I can put all of these videos that I am talking about. I will put links in the description. When I am done with this live stream, when I shut it down, it becomes a video. When that happens, the description of that video, I will add to it links to all these videos I just talked about. So, Mr. Froopy Pants, that's where I would go to get that. I mean, it's such a big question. Putting it all together, that's the job. That is the full description of the art of telling stories. Is that you have these things, how do you create a form? And luckily, there are some procedures that help. And the main thing is also just to find the form that you love, which is look at the things you like that are like the thing you're trying to do, and see where your thing can, and I don't mean this in a bad way, take what they did and do it. That's a lot of it. All right. Now, next, Elizabeth Watson asked me, okay, what's an opinion on the trend of studios canceling finished films or shows? On the future of development, I honestly believe that it's not that big a thing for development. Here's the thing. What Elizabeth is talking about is a couple of companies, but mainly HBO Max, underway. They were sold, and one group who was working on it got ousted, and new management came in. The thing that happened was that the company sale was leveraged with an enormous amount of debt. Now, I don't really understand the corporate mechanics of that, but basically what happened was HBO Max, the universe above that, whatever corporate ownership owns it. I can't remember what the names of the companies are, but basically that company, Time Warner, got sold and therefore incurred a huge amount of corporate debt, which is stupid to do, but they did it because it paid off them better. It's evil, the amount of work that shareholders are attended to at the cost of the business itself. But what happened was, in order to reduce that debt, they took certain projects, a couple of series and movies that were finished, roughly finished, and said, we're just not going to finish them. We're going to make that a loss. And that is a tax loss. So it was a financial accounting deal in which they were trying to find ways to take losses. So the point is, that doesn't happen all the time. That's not the ongoing business is we have a pile of money and we have a schedule of things we need to release, empty slots. So we're going to take the pile of money, we're going to divide it up among people who can fill those slots. That's the distribution business. Most of the time, they'll cancel the show early in that process. Once they're shooting it or finishing it, they've put in enough money that they have decided, we are committing to this, we're going to put it out there. Sometimes they even say, this isn't that great, but it fills the slot. It costs the amount it costs. Oh, well. The corporate bullshit that created this thing where they canceled finished films is not going to, it's not like people are going to say, I am no longer going to, there may be people who say, I'm not going to work with that bunch at HBO because I don't trust them. That's possible. So in a narrow sense, it may hurt HBO's ability to lure creative people because they just won't trust them. However, it's not going to reduce the number of jobs that are offered, or if you have a project, there's no way to foretell that I guess, you could say, I know HBO is for sale, blah, blah, blah. But if you get a deal at HBO, you're going to take it because the people who worked on those things, at least they got their paychecks, at least they got their work. And it was a very small, and I'm not saying this to excuse it. I'm saying that as far as the future of development, I don't personally believe that it will strongly affect. Things get canceled early and they will continue to get canceled. Things get canceled all the time. Or they get, like you do a show, the season of the show happens and they say, we didn't get as big an audience of this. We're not going to do season 2. That happens all the time. What Elizabeth is asking here about is the weird thing where they don't bother to show it to the audience. And that's a weird one. And while it's extremely awful for the handful of people who created those shows, and worked on the large number who worked on those shows, it happens. I know of like major stars and companies that sometimes productions fell apart mid-production, and they never got finished and they never got made. Sometimes with big stars and big, the big creative investment. Sometimes it happens. Bad stuff happens. I don't believe that's an important The important bellwether is how crappy the corporations are that are now owning the studios. Because what's happening is more and more, there was a fair amount, not a lot, but a fair amount of an understanding that the entertainment business was an art. And that therefore there was a fair amount of artistry that you supported in the hopes that it would pay off. But more and more, the companies that are owning the art businesses are saying, screw that, we want big returns. And that's where you get franchise-only studios, and you get, if this can't sell merchandise, it's not worth making, etc., etc. Okay. So I'm going to catch up on some comments. Miami, but yes, often shows go through major changes in the people running the show. That absolutely happens. Yes, exactly. Writing books and writing for TV are two entirely different storytelling mediums. They have very different rules. Although my feeling is rules are flexible. They may not be flexible in a particular business at a particular time, but as far as the possibilities of the medium, they're far more open than the business at any given time will admit. The possibilities of TV storytelling and book storytelling are much broader than you may see at any given moment. And books are particularly broad. There's just anything is possible. I don't know the particulars on Miami Vice. I'm a screenwriter. I try to learn from books, TV, comics, video games. Absolutely. And Love and Life and Me. Yes, absolutely. It behooves all of us to be constantly absorbing a lot. But when you choose what art form to work in, choose an art form that you actually love. It's just like simple advice. Like if you love TV, cool. You are choosing, that's like saying I love, this is the tricky thing. Suppose you love football and you're not going to likely get to be a professional football player. That's the teeny top of the iceberg of football. However, if you like playing football, you can probably find a bunch of people to play football in the backyard or in the schoolyard every Saturday. You can do that. You can't do TV that well. You can do a web series, and I would advise that. Anyway, that my feeling is The tricky thing about TV is because it is such a big business, it's advisable to consume some other forms of art that you can work in or learn what DIY web series are all about. Pennywise says, GBH was a theater critic and music long before he was a playwright. I think at some point he said something, I can do better than this trick, so he did. Yes, that is entirely in the stories by which, the ways by which people get into the arts are fascinating. Collecting them in a way alongside other much slower. Yeah, it's cool. Just don't do what you do. Do what you do until it doesn't work, and then check out my videos. Could you call Pulp Fiction short stories which you try? No, I wouldn't. I would call Pulp Fiction an ensemble story or interwoven storylines, but I would not say it's shorts. Yes, in the sense that you could say you could pull out any one of, like, you could cut up Pulp Fiction and follow those stories individually. So that is, I guess, a way to look at it. There are many ways to work with multiple storylines. I guess my question would be, would Pulp Fiction's shorts stand on their own? Mostly they might, actually. Yeah, that's true. Hey, Roddy. Roddy, I'm going to talk about your stuff, your question, day after tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about GBH. I didn't want to ask, but you mean George Bernard Shaw. George Bernard Shaw, indeed, who was a phenomenal playwright. For those of you who do not know, it's absolutely. George Bernard Shaw started out as a theater critic, I do believe. Do you think the serial installment novel is feasible? Everything is so instantly valuable. Here's the problem. Yes, it is entirely feasible. The problem is that it would have to be in a mass consumed reading source, which means, weirdly, it probably would do best like as Instagram stories or Facebook posts or something. The thing about serial installments was that serial novels were published in magazines, and everyone read the magazines the way that they now watch TV or look at social media. So therefore, they were going to that medium all the time, and then they would check out the serialization. The question now is, magazines wouldn't hold that audience, and therefore, essentially, you'd be just trying to publish. You'd trying to be like building up the magazine by putting in the novel. It would sort of be backwards. On the other hand, I do believe that serialized fiction will find its way. Right now, a lot of serialized fiction is TV, but the serialized novel, absolutely. We just haven't quite figured out where the readers are. They're split up into too many places. Some people are trying to do it on things like Substack, but the serial novel, I believe, is not a bad idea. Okay. Mr. Frupians, put down whatever you have, then look at it as a puzzle and create the missing pieces. Thank you. That's that. Yeah. The good thing, by the way, is to get back to Mr. Frupians' question about how do you put together a project, the important thing to remember is there's no right order. You could start with your ending. You could start with a character. Whatever you have, then you build around that. Once again, use what you have. If you have a great story and you don't have the characters, cool, figure out the story. Eventually, you're going to have to figure out who those characters are who want to do those things that are so cool in your story. If you have great characters, eventually you're going to have to figure out things they do, and that will be your story. Whatever you have, you're going to have to fill in what you don't have. And whatever you don't have, you're going to eventually have to get to, because without it, you're not going to have a completed work. So the great thing to do is not worry if you're not doing it in the order that somebody tells you. That's the thing that bothers me. Says, well, first you come up with your characters, and then you come up with your story. Nah. You may come up with, I think of this image. I have a theme. you can start with anything. You've asked this before, and it's a little broad. The main thing I would say about Act 2 is kind of what I've talked about here in the 6 Essential Questions video, which is the point about Act 2 is once you get things started, once you've established that a character is trying to do something, which they probably are, or something has happened to them, and therefore they're trying to do something. So you have this thing that they are trying to do, this thing they want, and you have an obstacle. They have some reason that's not, as I said in this video, I urge you to watch this video again about this. If what they want is a glass of milk and they could just go to the refrigerator and get it, you don't have a second act. The point about the second act is the obstacles and the things that you need to do to overcome the obstacles. That's your second act. You are welcome. I'm not sure I understand with the minimum 40 or 50 pages. I just don't understand the question. You may be better off just emailing me that one, Michael. Videos in this channel on Krill. Oh, good. I thought there was going to be a but. The videos are helpful. A gold mine of information. Yay. I thought you were going to use but. Cool. Thank you, Umbra Man. Thank you, Jordan. Nice to meet you, Jordan Lachelle. You are. I'm so glad when things are helpful. Reminder of the making of the Stuntman, the craziness. Get a movie. Yes, the Stuntman is a fascinating. I believe that the actual title is the Stuntman. It's a Peter O'Toole movie from I think the 70s, early 80s, which is sort of gets into like a possible demonic director. Anyway. Special features to Man with the Screaming Brain. Bruce Campbell tells a crazy story of how... Yes, honestly, almost everything you will see, the story of how it got made will blow your mind. It's just true. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely right. And yes, Brazil. There have been notoriously... What Michael's talking about here is the production of the movie Brazil was extremely... controversial and troubled, and it may have actually gotten caught in one of these company changeovers, and sometimes movies don't get released because a new bunch of people are running the studio and they say it's not worth it costs an extraordinary amount to release a movie. If you make a movie for under $1 million, it still costs you $12 million to release it in theaters. Now, theatrical has gone away. The theatrical has become release in theaters has become a high stakes specific business, and most things will not be released in theaters. Corporate works so well explained in the... Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Most places producing is not seeing this as an art, but more than... Yeah. I mean, that's... And that has always been... well, it kind of is chum for the bucks, I'll say. This is tricky because art and business always go hand in hand. And in the entertainment field, popular entertainment, business is always the complete controlling thing. But honestly, painting in 19th century France and 18th century France, the painting business, the painting world was this narrow, high stakes competitive field to do, the painting that would get into the galleries, that would get the aristocracy to see it. Business is always a part of the game. What's interesting now, and I urge you guys to think about this, there are now, for the first time, ways to avoid the business. You can get stuff out there. You can't get it out to millions, but you can get it out to hundreds, maybe even thousands of people if you learn about DIY production or creation and DIY distribution, publishing or web seriesing or something. This is all possible in a way that never was before. And don't forget that, 30, 40 years ago, there were things called zines, in which people who were frustrated by the business of comics and literature would just Xerox their own stuff, and they'd find a handful of bookstores, and they would, sell it there, and they would sell it on the streets. And that's legit. That's something to really take seriously. Okay, recently watched the pilot of an ABC show, Will Trent. Had some good elements because it did not learn. Well, they should have hired me. Yeah, it's yes, that and you know what? Sometimes basing TV on novels is difficult because the things that make the novel good may not fit the formula. I'm doing that a lot. The formula of television for the business. They are always looking to find a way. Even in television, where you're at the top of the game, you can be at the bottom of the top of the game and be, in their estimation, a failure. If you are a low-rated show, even though you're, hundreds of thousands of people are watching your show, it's considered a failure. So it's tricky about what is allowable. For serial novels, the problem with serial novels is no longer making them or even having a way to release them. It's having anyone see them. The tricky thing about any art form is right now you can make it, but how do you get people to read it, to buy it, to watch it? You can make an indie film and put it on Amazon and iTunes, but how do you get anyone to click on it and pay the $2.99 to watch it? That's the other part of the business. This has always been true. If it is not your strength, then consider finding people who are in that. Somebody who wants to be a producer needs an artist to produce. You as an artist who don't want to produce, you need a producer. Look around. The internet is cool because you could find a producer in another city, in another country. And if they love your work and if they match with your goals, they may be able to work out some way to work with you, even if you don't get to sit in the same room ever. Hey, to Miami Beach. Hi, Bijan. Nice to meet you. Cool. Lisandro writes serialized fiction. And that is, I applaud you. Well done. Write your work and put it out there. That is great. Waiting about his writer thing. Okay, just trying to catch up on these before the end of the hour. Has every story already been told? Yes. Is it possible to create something completely fresh and original? No. Yeah, but that's okay. That's there will always be novelty. Sometimes novelty is just doing a really old thing that people have forgotten. Has every story ever been told? Yeah, kind of. But that's okay. That's not really what we're looking for. Nobody was watching Shakespeare and saying, hey, that Macbeth thing, I've heard that story before. That Hamlet story, that was some other, I heard about that from some other playwright. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Every work of art is using other things, ideally in an individual and interesting way. The tricky thing about this Arctic flower is that the pace and the volume has gotten so huge because of the technology that lets everybody do it, and also just the mass media-ness of it. That there is first of all, there's the possibility that you could be writing something identical to somebody else's thing and not even know it, and never know it. I think that the idea of something completely fresh and original is illusory. Even the most groundbreaking things tended to work from something known. Punk music didn't come out of nowhere. The novel didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of epic poetry and out of letters and journals. There was a combination of other arts, a combination of other things. That's where things grow and come out. What's actually going to be interesting is, and this is not completely original, but actually non-traditional forms like video games are actually where you're more likely to come up with something original because the actual form changes. For instance, what if you have multiple endings? That would change the meaning of storytelling. It's pretty freaking amazing when you start to think about it. We have these rules of what a story is, but what if a story has 8 different endings? There's a lot of, what does that mean about our understanding of the story? It's a big, interesting topic where art will go. The sinister saga of making this not madness. Oh, Richard's novel, a video made about interesting. It's interesting because Richard Rush, I believe, was the director. Wow, I am going to look for this, Pennywise. I had no idea. I had no idea about this. Interesting. Okay, I will check that out. Thank you, Pennywise. That sounds fascinating. Cool. I had a filmmaker friend who decided to create a storyboard for comics. Absolutely. The crossing over of art forms is where a lot of originality will come. But in my personal take, there is nothing totally original. Like it could be whatever form you're going to have, even if it's going outside of art, you're going to be taking from something. I don't know that there's such a thing as originality, even. I'm not sure that it's valuable. What's valuable is originality within style and tradition and borrowing and combining and remaking. That's where I think originality comes in. Sorry, the neighbor's gardener is on the job. Are there consultants for shows? Yes, that is called ABC. The question is, yes. Are there people who do that? That is the full staff of production at ABC. There are layers and layers of producers and executives at production companies and networks whose full-time job is to read every draft of the script and tell people what they think should be better. A lot of the time, however, they are saying this could be done better and making it worse because their values of better are not as good. Their values are, hey, this is not like that other popular thing. Okay. Branding is so important. Yes, Maisie is correct. It is harder to sell your original work if it keeps changing. That's the thing is, if you do horror, and you do 20 horror things, whatever they are, games, movies, comics, whatever, people will say, oh, it allows the build-up of, first of all, anyone who likes one of them will go to the others. But also you can find your niche, your genre, and work in it and build your reputation there. So what Maisie is saying is extremely true. When it comes to marketing or creating, branding is important. This is a problem for someone like me who just is by nature brand breaking. I just like to explore different things. And so that's tricky because it will hurt the business of me. It's a real skill set that is difficult to master. Hire a company to get some eyeballs on the... Yes, exactly. If you can find... And there are production companies, distribution companies, there are people whose job it is to find good work and put it out to the public. That's their business. You hopefully want to hook up with them. The thing is, in order to do that, you need to be good and productive. That's the trick. You can't say, I'll get good once they're putting my stuff out there. They are only going to want to put your stuff out there if it's good. And like I said, 10,000 hours. It will take you years and years of work, project after project, to get good enough to break through. That is the reality of anything, but especially the art. Hello, Kirby. Okay, I'm gonna be trying to get out of this, so I'm gonna start answering. Either I'll answer later or answering quickly. Biased because local film club. It's an option to collaborate with film clubs. Yes, exactly. Umbraman is correct. Film festivals, film clubs, film societies. That is a legitimate market. It's not for money. I was listening to a guy named Dan Mervish, who was an indie filmmaker in the 80s and 90s, and still is. But he was interviewed, and he was talking about releasing to film festivals and saying you should, as an indie film, he co-created Slamdance because Sundance wouldn't take him. And his point was film festivals are not only a way to get larger distribution, they are distribution. There are a lot of film festivals, and if you can find your way to get to them and get your film shown there and go to them if you can, that's distribution. You will show I have a movie that I made that was shown at 3 festivals, 20 people in the audience each time. My total audience for this movie was 60 people. However, freaking amazing experience for me. I learned so much by having strangers watch my work. It took me 2 years to make this thing, cost tens of thousands of dollars. I got to go to 3 film festivals and watch it with audiences. A little crowd of people who like to go to film festivals to see weird indie films, and 20 of them at a time came and sat down and watched my movie. That's distribution. That's entertainment. That's art. I almost want to end there, but I'm going to quickly do... but anyway, yeah, Umbraman is right. Film clubs, festivals. The point of making something is to show it, and those are the end game. They don't have to be the step to another thing. Zombies always find life in movies. This is true. Last of Us is good, in my opinion. Yes, expression. Your expression... sometimes originality is just not the biggest deal. It's just not. Pinhead of Hellraiser showed him a script. He said, great title. Every story has been told, but not by you. Yes, these are the right answers. Snowblower. Not sure what that means. Oh, snowblower. No, leaf blower. Leaf blower. Do you think AI might be able to tell a unique story never told? Yes, unfortunately I do. Yes. I think that AI will do that. I'm not sure what that means philosophically, but luckily I'm not in charge of the world, so it's okay. I think it's possible, lazy, but I suspect that it might just be a variation on a theme rather than something utterly unique. I don't know, sooner or later, AI is going to do the monkey thing. You set enough monkeys at typewriters, eventually one of them will type Hamlet. Or Dickens. Keep it. Yes, exactly. Okay, I did it. I got to the end of the comments. I am out of here. It is lovely to see all of you. Day after tomorrow, 1 p.m. Pacific time, we will be talking about what to do if you feel your creative energy or spark has been damaged or broken. And that's a great topic. Thank you, Roddy, for asking about it. Thank you, Claire. Thank you all for being here, for the likes, for the company, the questions, the comments. Okay. And Wolf, I'm not sure. Thank you. You're all welcome. Wolf, I see your comment. Email me. Email me at this is where you email me, and I will try and understand it. Okay. Okay. So all of you, go write something.